Well, most of us celebrated Christmas yesterday in one way or another. I've heard a lot of people say that their day was quiet and peaceful, and so was ours. And what a blessing that is, yes. We've talked about that for years and years, how we each have the power to make Christmas a peaceful time, regardless of where we came from in our youth. And so, congratulations if you were able to maintain the beauty and tranquility of peace in your life. And now we begin looking at leaving 2021 and stepping into 2022. So we start to look at what it is from this year that we would like to leave behind. What is no longer serving you? It may be things, it may be feelings, it may be people, it may be situations. It can be anything that we feel personally is no longer serving us. And we are truly and honestly ready to let go of it, ready to step into a new idea of ourselves. And so our talk title this morning is Release.
In 2014, the University of Scranton published an article in the Journal of Clinical Psychology, and it said that 45% of people make New Year's resolutions. And of those 45%, 8% are successful at achieving their New Year's resolutions. And despite these astonishing facts, it is still recommended that we make New Year's resolutions, because people who explicitly make resolutions are 10 times more likely to attain their goals than people who do not make New Year's resolutions. A significant element of making resolutions is a personal commitment to release that which is not working in our lives, and that's one reason why so many of our New Year's resolutions are about losing weight or quitting smoking or releasing all those bad habits that we have. And the extent to which we actually are willing to do the work behind those will probably determine to what extent they actually come true. Releasing the past is an important part of moving on into the future. I like the statement that I'm ready to rid my life of all the BS that no longer serves me. That BS stands for belief systems. Yeah, what were you thinking? Well, release and elimination have quite a few definitions. One of those is the act or process of removing something or someone. Don't worry, I'm not releasing you, so. But I looked in the thesaurus under release and elimination, and some pretty powerful words in there. Destruction, eradication, expulsion, rejection, withdrawal, cut, discard, displacement, ejection, exclusion, extermination, omission, riddance, dropping, taking away, I like this one, weeding out, abolishment, annihilation, ending, nullification, voiding, withdrawal, or suspension, or suppression. And I was surprised that my favorite one wasn't in there. Renunciation. Renunciation is more of a metaphysical term. It literally means abandonment or rejection, but metaphysically it means a letting go of our thoughts in order that new thoughts may find place in consciousness. I like that. Ernest Holmes says, a healthy state of mind is attained when the thinker willingly lets go of the old thoughts and takes on the new. He also says, we have been given the power to sit in the midst of our life and direct all our life's activities. We have within us the power to set into motion, through law, whatever we choose to believe and accept. Circumstances do not create themselves. They are molded by thought patterns. Prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. I like that last one the best. Prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. In this new year, let's personalize that. I prepare my mind to receive the best that life has to offer. You want to state that? Repeat after me. I prepare my mind to receive the best that life has to offer. And I believe to the extent to which you actually believe that and commit yourself to that, that resolution or revelation will actually occur in your life. Today we have the opportunity to do just that, to prepare our mind to receive all the good of the universe, all the good that we can possibly imagine. As we enter this joyous time of celebrating a new year, we can take on becoming a new person. Becoming a new person means releasing any old idea of who we are or who we were or who we believed that we were, and stepping into a new idea of who we truly are. It's a process of releasing and receiving, letting go and taking in, just as a caterpillar sheds its cocoon to become a butterfly. We can shed our old and become new. Many people say that we bring our past from the past and bring it forward into the future where we are. And perhaps the reality is the past is a weight that is being dragged around behind us like a prisoner with a ball and shackle, a ball and chain. Releasing that weight doesn't mean that we're changing the past. It means that we're no longer allowing ourselves or the past to influence our current thought patterns. Becoming a new person means taking on a new idea of who we are and who we want to become, what we want to do and what we want to be. It means to not give attention to thought patterns that act like a weight around our necks or around our ankles. To think anew is to become anew. We must clear away any old habitual thinking that is holding us back from becoming our true, abundant self. Do you have any of those? It can't be denied that our past or our history is an important part of who we are because it really literally brought us to where we are right here and now. However, you're at choice to determine to what extent your past defines or limits who you are right now. You're at choice in designing your future on either precedent or preference. Designing your future on precedent is saying that everything that has happened before has led me to where I am now and I'm going to continue going in that way. Or preference, what do you wish to become? Who do you wish to become? I was reading an article recently about our past experiences and how to deal with them, and they used the term psychological distancing. I thought that was interesting. It says that the past may influence your future, but it doesn't have to dictate it. And it doesn't have to be something that always looms over your shoulder wherever you go. The past may be influencing your life, but it needn't be controlling your life. It's a valuable exercise to go back in history to find solutions to what brought about those belief systems in the first place. Those belief systems that you wish to shift. And then create a type of psychological distancing, which is the subjective perception of how far away something is from your current reality. It's creating a distance between you and your past. One of the tools is to view your past from an outside perspective. Imagine yourself looking back at an event from outside perspective, separating yourself from the scenario, thereby releasing any personal emotional attachment to the event. See yourself as an observer of your past, not a participant in your past. Allowing yourself to release all the emotional energy that went along with that. By doing this, you allow yourself to disassociate from your experience. By watching it from a third-person perspective rather than remembering it from a first-person perspective, you are able to desensitize the event and eliminate any association with your personal identity. It's easy for us to do that with our friends, isn't it? When they tell us stories of the past, and you can say, well, that's just silly. You can get beyond that, go beyond that. But it's really hard for ourselves to then do that for ourselves. We look back and we have emotional attachment to those things that happened in the past, and therefore we hold on to them with great vigor. Another tool is to change your environment of the event. Go to a challenging event in your memory and make subtle or not so subtle changes. like changing the decorations or adding pictures to the walls or moving the furniture or changing your clothes or painting the walls or making subtle or dramatic changes to what happened at that time. Creating a new environment around old ideas can be symbolic of opening up a new chapter in your life. We can minimize the importance of holding on. Do you ever look back in a photo album of pictures in the past and you look at yourself and say, oh, I can't believe I wore bell-bottoms. Look at those horn-rimmed glasses. Oh, and look at my hair. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I would have done that. And yet we're perfectly willing to listen to the person that made all those bad decisions back in those days and live by them today. What's the point? Let it go. It wasn't really valid to us back in those days, as we see it now. Why are we taking it and bringing it into the now moment? Another valuable tool is to remind yourself of the things that have changed. Most of the change in our lives is slow and gradual. It happens over a long period of time. It's not until we stop and look at it 5, 10, 20 years later that we notice just how different our lives are today. Remind yourself of things that have changed. This can help create psychological distance because it makes you more aware of the distance you've already come. You've come a long way, baby. Haven't you? So don't think of how far you have to go, but how far you've already traveled. You've made such distance already. Why not just cut the string and let it go? This brings us out of the past and into the now. What happened then will have less relevance to us in the now. I quite often say to myself, I can't believe I used to believe that. When I look back at my life and years in the past, and I can't believe that I used to believe that. My thought had changed, my thought processes have changed, my belief systems have changed, and life is so much more positive, I believe now, and I'm going to be curious to see what's going to happen in 20 years from now and look back and say, ooh, I can't believe I used to believe that. But I think some of these things I will still believe. It's time to take control and focus on what serves your life right now, while leaving behind the things that don't. You may find that what happened in the past has little to no validity or value in your life today. Expand your knowledge and enlighten your mind with the tools you need to excel in your life, to move forward rather than being held in the past.
I'll make a prediction. You're going to live in joyous expectancy of good.
I know that.
That's one of the things you're going to hold on to, right? Well, I would say that most of us probably want to release something in our life that appears to us to be having a negative effect on our life. Because truthfully, who would want to release something that is positive, something that brings them pleasure? But let's take a little deeper look at that. David brought up the idea of food. Food often brings us pleasure, yet many set their New Year's resolutions toward the idea of losing weight or changing their eating habits. Plus, there's that fact that we need food in order to sustain our life, which means that we really don't want to release food so much as we want to sustain our health. And so turning it around to look at what it is positive that we want to accept into our life and embrace and live as is more relevant than making a resolution that says we're going to discard something. What about those habits of smoking or drinking or whatever? We hear of those who absolutely love the pleasure that they derive from those items, those activities. Yet, we also see the damage and to our health and to relationships that those habits can bring. And so what we enter into is a love-hate relationship. That's what our belief system does, a love-hate relationship, and it creates a cycle within our own mind. We have habits and ways of living that we must change in order for us to achieve our peace and our joy. So I ask each of you not to say it out loud, but to just think, if you haven't already come up with some things that you would like to release. What is it that you personally would like to release? And remember, it can be one thing or it can be a whole list. It's okay either way. Often, what we want to release has a fear mindset back of it. And as we replace our fear mindset with faith, the thought which has been creating will release. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Replacing our fear mindset with faith. That's what I'm really talking about here today. And it's the idea that the thoughts that we have are not only creating in our life, but they are what we personally have created, our thoughts. What we have to do is have an idea we want to release, but quite often what we do is we give power to that idea that we want to release by having faith in it instead of the good that we desire to claim. That's really important to get, because we're always placing our faith in something, and quite often we're truly placing our faith in that which we do not want. So how does this show up? I can just look at food and gain weight. Ever heard anyone say that? I know smoking, or whatever, fill in the blank, is creating ill health for me and for my family in one way or another, but I just go crazy without it. Or maybe I'm giving up alcohol, or fill in the blank, after the holidays, because I can't imagine not drinking at all these upcoming parties that I'm attending. Those statements are all statements of faith, but they're statements of faith in the food, the alcohol, the drinking, whatever the habit is that we're claiming we want to release. So quite often we'll hear people say, oh, I've been saying this affirmation over and over and over, and it just doesn't seem to be materializing. We have to back it up with the belief that we're holding on to. Our statements of faith in the food, the smoking, the alcohol, etc., fill in your own blank based on your answer to what you want to release. They just grow a more secure habit for ourselves, within ourselves, that we will not and cannot change. In fact, those kinds of statements already prove defeat for whatever it is that we're saying we desire. It's called misplaced faith. And most of us engage in it in one way or another. And so coming to realize that we're doing it can make a significant change in our life. Because once we turn that corner, we can't go back. Once we turn that corner, we can say, nope, stop. Ernest Holmes says the mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self. In order to get the most out of our life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. This is not easy, for our old thought patterns cling to us with great tenacity, but being thought patterns, they can be reversed. If you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith, for faith always overcomes fear. And so for many of us, it's not things that we desire to release, but really back of whatever the occurrence, the incident, the situation, the person, the other is a feeling for us. A belief system that we have taken on that has given us a feeling that does not serve us. It may be feelings of doubt, anger, depression, resentment, anxiety. Fill in the blank. So I'm going to talk about those ideas. Khalil Gibran wrote, "Our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it." Anxiety is worry about the future. Feelings of anxiety are like setting off an alarm, except there's no apparent reason for the alarm. We have trained ourselves to think in cycles that create more anxiety. And it happens with the what ifs. And those what ifs, well, what if this happens? I'm going to do this. Well, what if this happens? Anxiety. Those what ifs are trampling around in our brain. They're taking up residency without paying for their space. They're utilizing us to create more of what we already have that we claim we don't want. The best way to rid of ourselves of anxiety, now listen, because this is really important. Take a breath. That was it. The best way to rid ourselves of anxiety is to breathe consciously. I think for many of us, that's just too simple. It's just too simple to think, oh, well, I'm going to rid myself of anxiety by sitting for 5 minutes and just breathing consciously. Why is it that we have to make things more complex than they need to be? Taking a breath and relaxing into that breath, focusing on the breath, takes our mind away from the what ifs. So we have to make a habit of faith and place our controller on auto breath. Anger is another powerful feeling. Most of us have experienced it from time to time. Some of us have created it as a habit, a pattern in our life. And anger gives a false sense of being in control. The truth is, we are really way out of control when we react in anger. And usually we realize it at some later point, and then we feel remorseful about it. And then we have heaped up even more upon our own self. Anger is fear turned inward. And whenever we feel angry, it's an opportunity for us to learn how to express new ways that bring better situations into our lives. Many people use the tool for counting. That really didn't work for me because I would just count with a loud, angry voice when I used to experience anger. That was way before you. You really lucked out. But what I did find for me was beating up on a pillow or a mattress. It did no harm to anyone or anything, and it allowed me to deplete myself of the anger. And usually back of anger, there are a whole lot of tears. There's usually something very sad, feelings that we want to cover up. And that's where anger comes from. And so anger, too, I'm not going to say that you just move from anger to faith, necessarily. It is possible. But probably anger is an opportunity for us to do personal work within. There is something that is wanting to be healed within us, a revealing of healing. And recognizing our angry moments gives us the time to find the fear and to release it. To move from using anger to feel this false sense of control to a sense of using faith in our own ability to take steps and make decisions that ensure our happiness, our safety, and our peace. I found this great quote, and I don't think it told me who said it, but maybe it was one of you. It said your boundary need not always be an angry electric fence that shocks those who touch it. It can be a consistent light around you that announces, I will be treated sacredly. And the last idea I want to talk about is doubt or self-doubt. I think that doubt has really grown in our society. Doubt can be a strong influence for regret, and therefore maybe something that we would like to release. Doubt creeps in, it's very sneaky. We make a decision, and then we start thinking, oh, am I sure? Or some wonderful friend or family member asks us, are you sure? Some rarely make decisions because they're afraid it will be the wrong decision. They just live in that doubt and waver back and forth. It has been said that every decision is an opportunity for growth. Therefore, it would be forward movement. So some questions we can ask ourselves. What's the worst that could happen if I do make this decision and move forward? Can I live with the worst that will happen? Can I overcome the result? Usually the answer is yes. We turn doubt into faith by simply following through on a decision. Write affirmations and stick them all over your personal space. So you repeat those statements over and over, statements of faith. I'm not going to write resolutions. I'm going to write affirmations, faith affirmations. And if you find that you're someone who often says, well, I'm going to do this. Oh, well, am I sure I want to do that? Maybe I should do this. Or something similar, then write your affirmation in the form of a decision. Ernest Holmes says, we should say to doubt, where did you come from? You have no place in my mind. Get out. I know that the faith within me now neutralizes all doubt. I make great decisions. Remember, friends, life is a mirror, and it always reflects back to us. Our predominant thoughts are creative, and we control our thoughts. Ernest Holmes said, drop all negative thoughts from the mind. Do not dwell on adversity, but think plenty into everything. For there is power in the word. Wake up. Your word is powerful.